Visuddhimagga, The Path of Purification, by Buddhaghosa. Introduction to the Path of Purification. Introduction to the Path of Purification addresses the foundational role of ethical conduct in Buddhist practice. According to the Visuddhimagga, the path to purification begins with virtue, which serves as the stabilizing force that supports concentration and wisdom. Without a solid grounding in ethical discipline, the higher stages of meditative absorption and insight cannot be sustained. Buddhaghosa outlines various dimensions of virtue, including the abstention from unwholesome physical and verbal actions, the maintenance of restraint in the use of sense faculties, and the adoption of a livelihood free from deceit or harm. This section also explores the distinctions between the lay practitioner and the renunciant, acknowledging that while the framework differs, the essential spirit of moral restraint is shared. In detailing the types of virtue, such as the undertaking of precepts, the restraint of the monastic code, and reflection on the use of necessities, the text illustrates a graduated path where ethical conduct evolves from external regulation to internal purification. Buddhaghosa uses vivid analogies, logical classifications, and scriptural references to justify why virtue is indispensable for progress along the spiritual path. These passages collectively establish that virtue is not merely adherence to rules, but the active shaping of character and volition in alignment with the goal of liberation. Each category of purification is expounded with examples, qualifications, and psychological relevance, making it clear that this chapter serves both as a philosophical foundation and a practical guide for training the mind and conduct in pursuit of the highest aim of the Buddhist path, nirvana or ultimate liberation. Part 1. Sīla, the virtue. Description of virtue. Virtue, Sīla, forms the essential foundation of the Buddhist path. In the Visuddhimagga, it is the first of the 7 purifications, representing the moral purification necessary for higher stages of mental development. Buddhaghosa emphasizes that without virtue, the path cannot begin. Virtue regulates physical and verbal actions and lays the groundwork for concentration, Samādhi, and wisdom, Paññā. It encompasses precepts, proper conduct, restraint of the senses, pure livelihood, and the wise use of requisites. It is likened to the soil in which the seeds of concentration and insight are sown. Introductory explanation. The purification of virtue begins the sequence of purifications in the Visuddhimagga. It is described in terms of training in discipline, a precondition to achieving any depth in meditation. Virtue is not merely mechanical rule-following, rather, it is a conscious alignment of behavior with the Dharma. It is moral integrity, self-restraint, and ethical mindfulness in every action. Buddhaghosa presents the subject in analytical form, breaking it down into definitions, functions, characteristics, and categories for deeper contemplation. 7 analytical questions on virtue. 1. What is virtue? Virtue is the intentional restraint from bodily and verbal misconduct, undertaken through volition and maintained through mindfulness. It is expressed through the non-transgression of precepts and the performance of actions that are blameless and skillful. 2. In what sense is it virtue? It is called virtue because it maintains stability and order, it controls and composes behavior, and it supports the arising of wholesome states. 3. What are its characteristic function, manifestation, and proximate cause? Its characteristic is moral composure. Its function is to eliminate misconduct. Its manifestation is purity. Its proximate cause is a sense of shame and fear of wrongdoing. 4. What are the benefits of virtue? Virtue leads to non-remorse, mental clarity, social harmony, and heavenly rebirth. It is praised by the wise and results in peace of mind. 5. How many kinds of virtue are there? Virtue is classified in various ways: one-fold, two-fold, threefold, up to five-fold, according to functions, scope, and stages of practice. 6. What is the defilement of virtue? The breaking or non-observance of precepts through negligence or delusion. 7. What is the cleansing of virtue? Re-establishing mindfulness and recommitting to the path through confession, restraint, and wisdom. Monads to pentads. Classifications of virtue. Virtue is classified numerically for ease of instruction. One-fold. All virtues are unified by the goal of purification. Two-fold. Avoiding evil and doing good. Threefold. Bodily, verbal, and mental purity. Fourfold. Restraint by the Patimokkha, the monk precepts, sense restraint, purification of livelihood, and reflection on the use of requisites. Fivefold, including temporary and lifelong virtue, limited and unlimited, mundane and supramundane. The fourfold, purification. The most significant presentation of virtue is in the fourfold purification. 1. Patimokkha restraint, discipline observed by monastics through the 227 rules. It forms the boundary of right conduct. 2. Restraint of the senses, mindful guarding of the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind faculties to avoid impulsive reactivity. 3. Purification of livelihood, avoidance of wrong means of living, such as deceit, flattery, hinting, and coercion. 4. Reflection on requisites, wise contemplation on the four requisites, food, clothing, shelter, and medicine, to avoid attachment and misuse. Virtue for laypeople and monastics. The Visuddhimagga acknowledges the difference in the application of virtue between laypeople and monastics. Laypeople observe the 5, 8, or 10 precepts. Monastics follow the comprehensive Vinaya code. However, the principles of non-harming, truthfulness, restraint and mindfulness apply equally. Virtue is not measured only by the number of rules, but by the sincerity, effort and wisdom applied in maintaining moral purity. Training rules and undertaking precepts. The act of undertaking precepts is a conscious moral commitment. For laypeople, this may begin with the 5 precepts: abstaining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, false speech, and intoxicants. For monastics, the precepts are more numerous and detailed. The training is not meant to repress, but to refine. Precepts are tools to weaken defilements and strengthen wholesome roots like non-greed, non-hatred, and non-delusion. The role of mindfulness in virtue. Mindfulness is the guardian of virtue. Without it, precepts are easily broken by carelessness or emotional reactivity. The constant recollection of one's actions, speech, and intentions forms the framework for moral discipline. In the Visuddhimagga, it is said that mindfulness leads to clarity, and clarity supports the continuity of ethical restraint. This is especially emphasized in sense restraint, where alertness is essential to avoid impulsive reactions. Purpose and benefit of virtue. Virtue brings tangible and intangible benefits. It leads to freedom from remorse, which in turn leads to gladness, joy, tranquility, and concentration, as described in the Upanisa Sutta. It results in trust and social harmony, as the virtuous person is respected and loved. It supports a peaceful death and favorable rebirth. But most importantly, virtue is the foundation for insight. Without moral discipline, the mind remains agitated and unfit for deep seeing. Defilements and cleansing of virtue. Virtue is defiled through forgetfulness, desire, anger, and delusion. Once broken, virtue can be repaired through confession, renewed effort, and guidance. Just as tarnished gold can be polished again, broken precepts can be restored through honest reflection and recommitment. This process is the cleansing of virtue. Virtue as a foundation for concentration and wisdom. The Buddha repeatedly emphasized that virtue leads to concentration, and concentration leads to wisdom. This sequence is not optional but causally linked. Virtue quiets the mind, making it steady and bright. With this clarity, insight arises naturally. Virtue is therefore the beginning, middle, and support for all higher Dhamma. It must be cultivated diligently, not out of fear or superstition, but out of compassion for oneself and others. Part 2. Samādhi, the concentration. Definition and purpose of concentration. Concentration, or Samādhi, is identified by Buddhaghosa as the second purification along the Noble Eightfold Path. It represents the mental unification essential for penetrating insight. Just as one would cleanse a vessel before filling it with a precious substance, so must the practitioner purify the mind from the 5 hindrances to prepare for the arising of wisdom. The purpose of concentration is not merely tranquility, but to establish a foundation of unwavering attention necessary for insight meditation, Vipassanā. The concentrated mind becomes sharp and steady, like a lamp flame undisturbed by wind, allowing one to observe the arising and passing away of phenomena clearly. According to the Visuddhimagga, concentration fosters joy and contentment, which are essential for deepening practice and cultivating spiritual discipline. Thus, it functions as both a preparatory and sustaining force for meditative development, marking the transition from moral conduct, Sīla, to wisdom, Paññā. The process of purification of consciousness. The purification of consciousness involves the steadying and cleansing of the mind through the systematic suppression of the 5 hindrances: sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse, and doubt. These hindrances are likened to impurities in gold that must be removed before the metal can be used. By removing these obstacles through sustained meditative effort, the mind becomes luminous and capable of profound states of stillness. This purified state is not only tranquil but also alert, allowing for deep focus without distraction. The mind, once purified, becomes fertile ground for the development of concentration, Samādhi, and later for the cultivation of liberating insight. Buddhaghosa emphasizes that such purification is achieved through proper choice of meditation object, disciplined effort, and the guidance of a qualified teacher. Classification of the 40 meditation subjects. The Visuddhimagga meticulously categorizes 40 meditation subjects, Dhammaratana, each conducive to the cultivation of concentration. These are organized into distinct groups. The 10 Kasinas, discs representing elements or colors. 10 foul objects, Asubha. 10 recollections, Anusati. 4 divine abodes, Brahma Viharas. 4 formless absorptions, Arupa Jhānas. 1 perception of the repulsiveness of food, and 1 analysis of the 4 elements. Each subject is suited to a specific temperament and spiritual goal. For instance, the Kasinas are used to develop Jhāna, while recollections cultivate faith and gratitude. Buddhaghosa outlines the practical techniques for using these objects, their psychological effects, and their relevance to different levels of concentration. In this way, the text serves as both a philosophical and a practical manual for spiritual development. Suitability of subjects for different temperaments. One of the unique contributions of the Visuddhimagga is its psychological sensitivity to individual temperaments. Buddhaghosa advises that meditation subjects be selected in accordance with a practitioner's dominant character traits. For instance, greedy types benefit from meditating on bodily foulness to counteract attachment, while hating types benefit from loving kindness, metta, to soften hostility. Deluded individuals are advised to practice mindfulness of breathing, which stabilizes and clarifies the mind. The faithful find inspiration in recollections of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, while intellectual types may be drawn to analytical meditations on the elements or dependent origination. This nuanced approach allows for the effective customization of meditation practice, increasing the likelihood of success and reducing frustration for the meditator. Detailed explanation of the 10 impediments. Before concentration can be firmly established, the practitioner must overcome 10 impediments, nivarana. These are not the hindrances themselves, but rather practical and environmental distractions that disrupt meditation. They include attachment to one's dwelling, over-familiarity with supporters or lay families, gain, fame, excessive activity, travel, social obligations, bodily sickness, intellectual restlessness, and even fascination with psychic powers. Buddha advises withdrawal from these influences to safeguard one's seclusion and inner peace. He offers strategies such as living in a forest hermitage, maintaining moderation in speech, and avoiding unnecessary social contact. By diligently removing these impediments, the meditator creates an optimal context for developing uninterrupted concentration. The 5 jhāna factors and their development. Progressing into the jhanas requires the cultivation of 5 specific mental factors: applied thought, vitakka; sustained thought, vichara; rapture, piti; happiness, sukha; and one-pointedness, ekaggata. These factors are not randomly assembled, but arise in a specific sequence. Applied thought directs the mind toward the meditation object, while sustained thought anchors it there. Rapture and happiness arise as natural responses to sustained mindfulness, bringing emotional uplift and comfort. Finally, one-pointedness represents the unification of attention, the very essence of Samādhi. As one ascends through the jhanas, the grosser factors fall away. The second jhana drops applied and sustained thought, the third relinquishes rapture, and the fourth retains only equanimity and one-pointedness. Each stage represents a deepening refinement of concentration and detachment. The role of mental images, acquired and counterpart signs. In Kasina Meditation, the transition from physical object to internal focus involves the arising of mental images called nimittas. The acquired sign, ugaha nimitta, is the initial mental image formed through repeated focus. It may be blurred or unstable at first, but with continued attention, it transforms into the counterpart sign, patibhaga nimitta, which is clearer, more refined, and stable. This refined image becomes the basis for access concentration and full absorption. Mastery over the counterpart sign marks a significant milestone in meditative development. Buddhaghosa describes how recognition of these signs helps determine progress, and provides guidelines for strengthening them, such as adjusting posture, balancing effort and relaxation, and using mental noting techniques. The signs serve as inner guides on the path to deeper concentration. Stages of concentration, access and absorption. Samādhi unfolds in stages. The first is access concentration, Upacara Samādhi, where the mind becomes free of hindrances and steadied on the meditation object, but jhana has not yet been fully attained. The counterpart sign becomes prominent here, indicating readiness for absorption. Appana Samādhi, or absorption concentration, follows, characterized by full entry into the jhanic state. This state is marked by the presence of the 5 jhana factors, or their refined versions in higher jhanas. Absorption is so deep that external sounds, physical sensations, or even strong emotions cannot disturb it. Each level of jhana is progressively more subtle and requires a corresponding refinement of mindfulness and equanimity. The jhanas provide a powerful tool for overcoming gross mental disturbances and for preparing the mind to discern ultimate realities in insight meditation. Kasina Meditation, Key Techniques and Challenges. Kasina meditation is one of the most detailed methods for cultivating concentration. A kasina is a visual object, such as a colored disc, light, or elemental representation, which serves as a focus point for attention. The meditator begins by gazing at the disc until a mental replica forms. This image is then internalized, allowing meditation to continue without the physical object. Common challenges include visual fatigue, distraction, and lack of interest. To address these, Buddhaghosa advises maintaining ethical purity, adjusting the size and clarity of the disc, and alternating sitting and walking meditation. The strength of Kasina meditation lies in its versatility. It can lead to all 4 rupa jhanas and provide a platform for supernormal powers. It also fosters extreme mental clarity, making it ideal for meditators seeking profound concentration quickly. Practical guidelines and preparatory tasks. Success in concentration depends on careful preparation. The Visuddhimagga offers guidelines that begin even before one takes to formal meditation. These include choosing a suitable dwelling, one that is quiet, safe, and free of disturbances, associating with wise teachers and noble friends, establishing a daily routine of ethical conduct and generosity, and cultivating contentment with basic necessities. Buddhaghosa also recommends reflections on the urgency of practice, such as the inevitability of death and the uncertainty of life, to strengthen resolve. These preparations condition the mind to embrace solitude, renounce distraction, and dedicate itself fully to the task of concentration. They are not mere preliminaries, but integral parts of the practice that shape the spiritual journey ahead. Readiness for insight. Once concentration is firmly established and the mind is unified, the practitioner becomes ripe for insight, Vipassanā. With a mind free from distraction and capable of sustained attention, one begins to observe the impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self nature of all phenomena. This is the turning point in the practice, from tranquility to wisdom, from calm abiding to penetrating seeing. Buddhaghosa emphasizes that without firm concentration, attempts at insight may lead to shallow or misguided conclusions. Thus, Samādhi is not an optional accessory, but the very bridge between morality and wisdom. It is the still foundation upon which the Tower of Insight is built, a foundation that must be laid with care, consistency, and clarity of purpose. Part 3. Paññā, the wisdom and its role in liberation. Wisdom and its role in liberation presents the culmination of the Buddhist path, as described in the Visuddhimagga, the cultivation of wisdom leading to the direct realization of ultimate truth and the cessation of suffering. Buddhaghosa begins by explaining that wisdom is not merely intellectual knowledge, but a deep experiential understanding that arises through the clear observation of mental and physical phenomena as they truly are. The practitioner applies mindfulness and discernment to the impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self nature of all phenomena. This insight is not attained suddenly, but through a graduated series of contemplations known as the insight knowledges. These stages guide the meditator from initial comprehension to equanimity, and ultimately to the knowledge of the noble path. The text elaborates on how wisdom depends on and perfects the trainings in virtue and concentration, forming the final component of the threefold training. With careful attention to each purification stage, the practitioner uncovers deeper layers of understanding, penetrating the true nature of existence and uprooting the causes of suffering. This process culminates in the realization of nirvana, the end of the cycle of birth and death. Buddhaghosa's detailed analysis offers both a philosophical exposition and a practical guide to developing liberating insight, making this chapter the crown of the Visuddhimagga's systematic path to awakening. Definition and function of wisdom. Wisdom, Paññā, is the discerning faculty of understanding phenomena according to their true nature. In the Visuddhimagga, it is defined as that which penetrates the characteristics of impermanence, anicca, suffering, dukkha, and not self, anatta. Wisdom is the third division of the Noble Eightfold Path, and the culmination of the path of purification. It is developed after virtues, Sīla, and concentration, Samādhi, have been well established, and it serves as the instrument for final liberation from suffering. What is wisdom? In what sense is it wisdom? 1. What is wisdom? It is penetrative understanding, the clarity of vision that sees things as they truly are. 2. In what sense is it wisdom? It is wisdom because it discerns the rise and fall of conditioned phenomena. 3. What are its characteristics, function, manifestation, and proximate cause? Its characteristic is penetrating the true nature of reality. Its function is to eliminate delusion. Its manifestation is illumination of experience. Its proximate cause is concentration. The role of wisdom in the path. Wisdom is the final purifier. It does not merely know facts, it knows reality directly. While virtue guards behavior and concentration stabilizes the mind, wisdom uproots ignorance, which is the deepest cause of suffering. The Visuddhimagga states that only through wisdom can one comprehend the Four Noble Truths, the aggregates, khandha, bases, ayatana, and dependent origination, paticca samuppada. Classifications of wisdom. Wisdom is classified as mundane, lokya, and supramundane, lokuttara. Mundane wisdom includes analytical knowledge, learned knowledge, and meditative insight that prepares the mind for the supramundane. Supramundane wisdom arises in the noble path moments, stream entry, once returning, non-returning, and arahantship. Wisdom can also be classified by method, inferential, experiential, and penetrative insight. Insight knowledge, Vipassanā Ñāṇa. Insight knowledge, Vipassanā Ñāṇa, is the direct experiential understanding of the three characteristics. This is developed through the practice of Vipassana meditation, in which the practitioner observes bodily and mental phenomena as they arise and pass away. Vipassana is not based on reasoning but on clear observation, guided by sustained mindfulness and energy. It is cultivated by those who have already established concentration to the level of access, upachara samadhi. The progress of insight, Vipassana Ñāṇa Vipphatti. There are 16 stages of insight that a practitioner experiences as wisdom matures. 1. Knowledge of mental and physical phenomena, nama-rupa paricheda ñāṇa. Here discerns mind and matter as distinct realities. The practitioner clearly sees that experience consists only of mental and physical phenomena. 2. Knowledge of conditionality, paccaya parigaha ñāṇa. Here understands how mental and physical phenomena arise due to causes and conditions, sees dependent origination at work. 3. Knowledge of comprehension, sammasana ñāṇa. Here reflects on the three characteristics, impermanence, suffering, and non-self, in all phenomena, develops deeper insight through contemplation. 4. Knowledge of arising and passing away, udayabaya ñāṇa. Here clearly perceives how phenomena constantly arise and vanish, a stage of heightened clarity, joy, and subtlety of perception. 5. Knowledge of dissolution, bhanga ñāṇa. Here focuses on the disintegration of phenomena, sees only constant cessation, with nothing stable or lasting. 6. Knowledge of fearfulness, bhaya ñāṇa. Here realizes the fearful nature of impermanence. Insight gives rise to a sense of danger in clinging to impermanent things. 7. Knowledge of danger, Adhenava Ñāṇa. Here, perceives the unsatisfactoriness and harm in conditioned existence, further deepens disenchantment. 8. Knowledge of disenchantment, Nibbida Ñāṇa. Here develops profound disinterest and detachment from all phenomena. The mind turns away from conditioned things. 9. Knowledge of desire for deliverance, Muncitu Kamyata Ñāṇa. Here a strong wish to be freed from the cycle of birth and death arises. Longing for liberation becomes clear. 10. Knowledge of reflection, Patisankha Ñāṇa. Here wisely examines the path to liberation, refining practice with wisdom and skillful effort. 11. Knowledge of equanimity, Sankha Upekkha Ñāṇa. Here achieves deep equanimity toward all formations. No attraction or aversion remains. Observation becomes balanced and steady. 12. Knowledge of conformity, Anuloma Ñāṇa. Here, insight aligns with the noble path. The final preparations for the breakthrough to nirvana occur. 13. Change of lineage knowledge, Gotrabhu Ñāṇa. Here, the transition point where the practitioner leaves the mundane lineage and enters the lineage of the noble ones. 14. Path knowledge, Magga Ñāṇa. Here, direct realization of nirvana through one of the four noble paths, stream entry, once returner, non-returner, arahant. Defilements are eradicated. 15. Fruition knowledge, Phala Ñāṇa. Here, the result of the path, enjoyment of the peace and liberation of nirvana, confirms the attainment. 16. Review knowledge, Paccavekkhana Ñāṇa. Here, reviews and analyzes what has been achieved. Defilements abandoned, the path traveled, and nirvana realized. 10 corruptions of insight. As insight develops, the meditator may experience bright mental phenomena such as rapture, energy, clarity, or strong mindfulness. However, these can become obstacles if clung to. These are called the 10 corruptions of insight: illumination, knowledge, rapture, tranquility, bliss, resolution, exertion, assurance, equanimity, and attachment. The meditator is advised to remain equanimous and not regard these as final attainment. Penetrating the 3 characteristics. All insight knowledge converges on the realization of the 3 characteristics. Impermanence, anicca, all conditioned phenomena arise and cease. Suffering, dukkha, what is impermanent is subject to stress and unsatisfactoriness. Not self, anatta. There is no abiding essence or controller within any phenomena. The clear perception of these truths weakens craving and leads to dispassion. Knowledge leading to emergence. This is the knowledge that brings the meditator out of mundane perception and into the path. It culminates in conformity knowledge, Anuloma Ñāṇa, and change of lineage knowledge, Gotrabhu Ñāṇa, after which supramundane path knowledge arises. It is at this stage that the meditator's understanding becomes irreversible and transformative. Path and fruition wisdom, Magga Phala Ñāṇa. When insight ripens, it reaches the moment of path, Magga, and immediately follows with fruition, Phala Ñāṇa. These are moments of supramundane consciousness that completely abandon fetters. For example, at the path of stream entry, the fetters of personality view, doubt, and wrong grasp of precepts are destroyed. Fruition is the immediate experience of the result. Peace, nirvana, and non-return to delusion. Wisdom is not merely an accumulation of knowledge, but a lived transformation. It is the faculty that cuts through delusion and reveals the unconditioned. As the final stage in the path of purification, Paññā completes the journey by penetrating reality and realizing nirvana. With wisdom, the Noble Eightfold Path is fulfilled, and liberation is achieved.